Hello everyone, this is American Idioms Part 18. This is the 18th video in my American Idioms series, and like the others, I'll present 5 idioms to you numbered 86 to 90. But first, I'll give you the chance to guess their meanings. Then I'll explain each of them to you using additional examples to help you to understand them better. So, are you ready? Okay, here we go. Number 86. And the example is, our plans for expansion went off the rails when the recession began last month. Can you guess the meaning? The answer here is C, to go into a state of dysfunction or disorder. And that's exactly what happened to the plans of this company, it looks like. When their plans went off the rails, it meant that they weren't able to do them because of this recession. All right, so dysfunction means that they weren't able to function the way they wanted to. It's just a fancy word to mean that they weren't able to do what they wanted to do. Here's another example. Steve was a great student and was headed to university next semester, but he went off the rails after he began taking drugs. We have the same thing, right? We have a situation where something went off the rails. It didn't go as expected, right? There was a lot of chaos, or there was a lot of dysfunction here because Steve was taking drugs. Got it? All right. Here's number 87. And the example is, I was an hour late for work this morning because the streets near my office were jam-packed with people protesting the president's new labor policy. Can you guess the meaning? The answer here is B, to be very crowded or full, and that's what jam-packed means. And if you look at our example, it's exactly what they're talking about here. The streets were jam-packed. They were crowded. They were full. There was no room for this person to get to work. That's why he or she was late. Here's another example. I like going to the fall festival every year, but I hope it's not as jam-packed as it was last year. Now, in this example, the person is kind of complaining about last year's festival that was jam-packed. It was too crowded. It was too full. All right, so that's what jam-packed means. Okay, number 88. And the example is, after a tough week at work, I usually recharge my batteries by walking in the woods on the weekends. Can you guess the meaning? If you guessed A, to regain one's energy, liveliness through a period of relaxation, you are correct. And in our example, the person was very, very tired or had a lot of stress because of the long week that they had at work. And by walking in the woods, they recharge their batteries, just like a cell phone that has no more energy. By doing this relaxation, they got their energy back. And that's what to recharge one's batteries means. Here's another example. Ellen took a trip to the Bahamas to recharge her batteries after working long hours on the president's re-election campaign. Now, we have a similar situation here with Ellen. She worked really hard on the president's campaign, and she was, let's say, exhausted or very tired, and she got her energy back by going on this trip to the Bahamas. All right, number 89. And the example is, she told her daughter not to get a job as a teacher because teachers get paid next to nothing. Can you guess the meaning? The answer here is B, almost nothing or very little. And this is exactly what the example is saying about the pay for teachers. They get paid next to nothing, means they get paid very little. And that's why she didn't want her daughter to become one. Here's another example. I got really lucky yesterday because I was able to buy a great antique lamp at the county fair for next to nothing. In this case, this person went to the fair and they bought an antique lamp that was nice, but it was very cheap. They bought it for next to nothing, for very little. Got it? Here's the last idiom, number 90. And the example is, my friend Joe went bankrupt when he bet the farm on those tech stocks last month. Can you guess the meaning? The answer here is C, to risk everything on something that one thinks will be successful. And in our example, Joe looks like he bet everything on these tech stocks. Okay, he invested everything he had. He bet the farm. And it's usually used like this for financial, let's say, issues, but it can be used other ways. It's usually used like this, though. Here's another example. I took my life savings and started my own business. I wouldn't advise you to bet the farm like I did, but I'm doing quite well right now, so it was worth the risk. Here we have a person who invested his whole life savings. He bet the farm. That's how it's used. All right? And then he advises the person not to do the same thing. It's very risky to invest your whole life savings. But that's what to bet the farm means. That's all for this video. I have a challenge for you. Try to use one of the idioms that you learned in this video in the comments section, and I'll correct it for you. So thanks again for subscribing, and remember what I always say, keep practicing! See you next time!